for me is you want to test that nutrition weeks before, and then that week of race week, you've got to be disciplined and focused on your diet and fuel, just as you would your training plan, and looking and giving it the same amount of effort and focus.
We are live again. I am so excited. Ironman and Beyond, how you all doing? Today is Friday. We are here to bring something very valuable, especially summer's coming up.
Summer's coming up.
Yeah.
It sneaked up on us.
So how are you all busy high achievers all over the world?
This is Coach Shangrila and I am Vinetta.
And we also have Scott in the background right now, and we will introduce you to him in a short bit. But let me tell you what we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to share you my screen so at least you got some good insights of what we're going to be talking about. All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about 5 practical tips for a successful 70.3 distance or longer, like Ironman and beyond, when expecting hot weather. Okay. How to train and prepare for a hot 70.3 or longer so that you are not suffering on the run course. And actually, it's not really just 70.3. How do you even prepare for a hot race? Okay, especially because summer is coming up, and some of the in some areas they're already at 90s, high humidity. It's not even summer yet. So today we're gonna be talking about, how to physically, nutritionally, and mentally prepare for a race. It's gonna be hot. What do you need to know about being comfortable and feeling strong on the run part of the race during, when the sun is up? How to make sure you stay on track throughout the entire race and not get dehydrated.
Yeah, I'm very eager.
Who's excited about this one?
Stephanie's joining us. Hi, Stephanie. James is joining us. Hi, James. Glad you could make it.
So for those who are new in Ironman and Beyond, let's welcome them first.
Yes.
This is, especially if this is your first time to actually be joining us in this live training. We do this one on a weekly basis. We do our best to give value to everyone. So who's new here? Raise your hand. Feel free. Don't be shy. We want to greet you. Welcome.
Yes.
All right.
We'll see it in the comments. You can put it in any time.
Yes. And so do you all know how, those new in this group, do you all know how to get help in this group? There's a lot of free training resources. It comes to nutrition, training, about running. How do you structure your training, if you're training for Ironman? So several different things. So raise your hands, if you're new in this group. I want to welcome you all. And who have upcoming races? You guys are all excited about it? How are you preparing? What races? Is it an Olympic?
Is it a sprint? A super sprint?
Yeah, put down below. And we want to know about the races, especially I know there's several 70.3 coming up, Oregon 70.3. There's the Colorado coming up. There's also different, like Olympic in your area coming up. Put down below, what are you training for? And is heat something like, ooh, how can I even train? I'm like running right now and I'm having a hard time. How could I run after a 56-mile bike for a 70.3? Is that one of those things that you guys are thinking about?
I bet. Sharon says she's doing 70.3 Oregon.
There's Lubbock. Right.
Stephanie's doing Lubbock, yes.
So how are you training? So today is going to be very valuable because, we're going to talk about top 5 effective tips of how to train and how to execute your race. You're going to find a lot of valuable things today, and make sure to take notes. So if you have pen and paper, put down notes. Tell us, this is more of an engaging training wherein we ask you what your questions, bring it up, and then we'll discuss over. And we have Scott here from Georgia, who's been racing and crushing his races in just like within a month. I mean, it's unbelievable. Who even does that? Like, how could he recover? And hopefully we have time to actually touch base on that one of how he had done it. Okay. But without waiting further, let's introduce Scott from Georgia. Hello, Scott. How are you doing? Actually, from Mexico, because right now he's in Mexico right now. How are you doing, Chan?
I'm very good. I'm on vacation finally.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what happened to Scott just recently. And what I'm about to share to you right now is actually his time. He raced Chattanooga 70.3. Anyone who raced just last weekend, or anyone who was in Chattanooga just last weekend, 70.3. I know there's other races. Anyone who raced last weekend, whatever that is, how was that for you? Was it hot? Yeah, it was hot, right? I did race actually also. It was a trail run, but I'm sure you guys had a much better time right here. So this was his time. 38 minutes on a swim, bike 241, run 146, 5:15. He PR'd basically almost, actually all, and he'll tell us more about it. 4:58, a PR on transition 1, PR on transition 2.
Nice.
Awesome. And but before that, 2 weeks prior to that, he did other things. Okay. So let's see. So this was actually that poster that we made for him. Okay. That was his times. That was just last weekend. Congratulations, Scott. And then this one was 2 weeks prior. Okay. So he was at Gulf Coast. He did the bike portion, which he also PR'd on his bike. So what he did, he couldn't believe. He said, Coach Shangrila, never have I ever averaged 22 miles per hour, let alone 23. He was being humble because it was actually almost 24. It was 23.77 miles per hour. So bike PR, and his relay team won as a champion, overall team champion.
That is so cool.
So this one was 2 weeks prior to this Ironman 70.3 Chattanooga. But then 2 weeks prior to this, he also did another thing. Again, this is within a month. Okay. So this one was about, end of April. He did with a relay team, Ragnar relay team. They also won second overall team champion, mixed team course record. And, he was running pretty fast that time. He had a great time. Okay.
Wow. That's so cool.
So that must be a really, really good feeling, Scott. I mean, it's like back to back. How like you race, okay, recover, go back to work. You race, recover, go back to work. Is that your lifestyle now, Scott?
Yeah. Just run, eat, sleep, recover, run. Yeah, all that. It's just a continuous cycle for me. And I spent most of the off season training hard. So now we're getting into race season and just kind of taking advantage of a number of different opportunities to just enjoy some of these, the trail racing, the relay that we did in Gulf Coast, and then of course the 70.3. And Coach, I would say that Panama City race at Gulf Coast, I think that was hotter than Chattanooga. Yeah, just we didn't have all three disciplines there because the swim was canceled.
Okay. All right. Did you guys get that one? Hopefully you're getting it. It's a little, the connection there, Scott, but so far I'm getting it. So let's see. I'm going to recall this one. So first of all, how did we meet Scott? Honestly, we haven't met him in person. It is still yet about to come. He's been with us for at least 1 year. Okay. But within at least 1 year, he has gotten a lot. We met him in Ironman and Beyond. He was one of you guys. So if you guys are in Ironman and Beyond, he was there for a couple years. And just, watching, checking out the group. And then, and he actually, this was one of his times before he got the coaching, 5:53. Okay. And this is Chattanooga of last year. Chattanooga, he on his post here, it was just May 22nd, right after the race, he was comparing his times of 5:53 last year before coaching. And this one was actually just last October. He got a PR, October, 5:37. It was just October. And this one, 5:15. Tell us more about this one. Like how do you compare the Chattanooga of last year, your experience, and then your experience this year?
It's a great question. Last year, the weather conditions were basically the same as this year. So I had that experience going for me. But overall, I just had so much better preparation and, another experience of dealing with the elements, and structured training. I think that was one of the biggest parts about my improvement, whether it was within Memphis or the year over year results you just showed from Chattanooga. I was here just like all you guys, and I was here in Ironman and Beyond for, I think, 12, 18 months. And I came back from that race feeling terrible, very disappointed, because it was my worst finish in a 70.3. And I said, I've got to do something different. And that's when I reached out and joined the feistyfox coaching.
What happened on that last year? You said it was one of the, is that worst race, 70 point? Was that your first one? How was that feeling? Was that in the run portion that was horrible?
That was one of the things there. Was I had a very good bike. My swim was much slower, but the bike was good. And when I got into the run, I lost it in the first 3 miles. It was a different experience because I felt good going into that first mile or two, but I just did not have a very good plan, or execute on the plan that I did have. And I went out way too hard for the conditions, and just really didn't have the level of mental fitness and nutrition and hydration and just overall plan to execute, and just, I'd say, failed miserably. And for the next 10 miles was probably the hardest 10 miles I had ever ran up at that point in my life.
Wow.
It was a lot of suffering. Suffering is the way I'd explain it.
The last 10 miles.
Yes, that's actually quite common, isn't it? Like,
anyone here who has been having a hard time on your running portion, like you're pretty strong on the bike. You just, some of you guys, like I heard a lot of like, I just want to get sub 6. I know I'm that close. I'm like 6:05, but then, like I got it. Like the swimming, I'm strong in swimming, I'm strong on biking, but then bam, something happened on the run. And it's not, some athletes would say, it's not my day. Something went wrong. Oh, I just need to get back to that one. And then they try again another race and it doesn't show up. So are you guys feeling this one? Have you guys had this, similar experience that Scott had experienced last year? Okay. Comment on, if you guys can relate, and how was that for you?
And then Scott, you mentioned that you wanted something more, you wanted something different, you wanted a better outcome. And why did you need feistyfox coaching for that? What was the decision there? What were you hoping to get?
Well, so the first couple tries that I did, I was using training plans that I would get from the internet. There's a number of sources out there you can get just a training plan. And I was following those and thought I was actually improving well, but all that really helped me with was the workout that I was executing. It wasn't giving me the other tools for me to be successful.
Got it. Well, I wanted to show you some snippet.
I think we're going to be covering other tools shortly.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, no, that's true, because we're going to go back to the topic of what we just talked about. So let me make sure that those who are just joining in, tell us #live if you're just joining in, so we know that you're listening to live, and or if you're just listening to this one as put #replay if you're listening to replay. So for those who are just joining in, 5 practical tips for a successful 70.3 when expecting hot weather. We do think that Scott's experience, considering that what he did was 5:15, way much better, about 22 minutes, okay, prior to his 70.3, just October, and then 38 minutes faster on the same course. I do think that he learned a lot. And then so what we're going to break down today are what are the 5 top effective tips that you guys can tackle on, or like start applying right now, not necessarily at the race. You guys are ready for this? Who wants to hear now? Like, we want to race, and we want some hands here, so we know that you guys can actually hear us. Tell us you're there. This is, again, this is a like give and take. Vineta and I keep looking at the actual the chat, so we can actually.
I see Neil saying yes. Veronica saying yes.
Awesome. All right. Okay. So, well, first you mentioned about nutrition earlier. So that's one thing. 5 practical tips is 1, train your nutrition and make sure to execute it. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Is that let me show you of Scott's. And he actually shared this one. This is one of the ways that we actually help our athletes. We go by details, we don't go like, okay, what are we going to do? So here you go. So it goes from, I'm trying to make it larger here. Okay, so hopefully, yeah. So it goes from like the plans here, like the schedule. What is he gonna do on every hour, every minute? There's breakfast. What is he gonna eat? The times. So basically, what we're trying to tell here is that he knows the what, the amount, and the timing
of his nutrition.
Nutrition during the race. Before as well. Is that what happened on your race, Scott?
Yeah, that's exactly. And you mentioned the times there. And in some ways, I feel like I'm being facetious sometimes, but it's trying to be precise. And if you go back to that, you can see where I was looking at what I'm doing. So 4 o'clock, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to finish breakfast by this time, and how much of what I'm going to have. And that's just race day. This plan actually started for me well before race day. So what I'm just showing you there is just race day execution, but my race day plan really starts a week before. And, for me is you want to test that nutrition weeks before, and then that week of race week, you've got to be disciplined and focused on your diet and fuel, just as you would your training plan, and looking and giving it the same amount of effort and focus, or again, you're not fueling your body to get your best results.
Yes, that is very different than figuring out your nutrition the week before, or on the day of, kind of looking at the bars, what they have.
So tell us, why do you do that?
Well,
like, why do you have to prepare all the way weeks prior? And were you doing that like last year? What changed? What made you do that?
I wasn't. So I would go into a 70.3 with like Gatorade fuel bars tied to my, taped to my bike, and shot blocks here and stuff there. And I go, well, I'm gonna eat what I feel like eating. And it's funny because I still see people doing exactly this. They go into a race and they say, I'm gonna plan when I'm out there. So I'm gonna take what I think I might want, even if I don't need it. So instead of just forcing themselves to have a plan and test it during training, they're trying to figure it out while they're out on the bike or out on the run. And it just simply won't work for you, especially when it's hot. If you look back at my my meal plan, from the time that I enter the water to the time I get out, I'm not eating any solid substance. So everything there is consumed through either drinking or hydrogels.
Yep. But just take note, he trained for it. So like for you guys, it doesn't matter what your nutrition is, but you got to train for it. And it's not on the race day, on the race week when you're trying to figure it out. You got to train for it. And also it's not just also the, the what, the amount and timing is important, and then dialing it in. Okay. So now,
and I think we're gonna really see what the purpose and the effect of that was as he keeps telling the story of this race.
Yeah. The next one is that, like, what do we do? Like, for example, when you are, one of the things that a lot of athletes, for example, they feel good. Like they get out of the swim, they feel good. They're not thirsty, they're not thirsty. And then they like, okay, I'm gonna just wait. And then now the nutrition doesn't get executed. That's something that we also want to watch out, right? Especially.
And there's.
Go ahead. Looks like Scott is frozen. Hopefully, Scott will go back. All right, Scott. All right, so I'm going to add that. I'm going to add.
Or even.
Go ahead, Scott.
Go into and drink or your electrical. As the race goes, you drink because you don't have to stop at the bathroom. And what happens there is you only start to
Oh, we're losing Scott. We're losing Scott. So let me, while we're trying to get back Scott there, so I'm going to fill in. So yeah, definitely when you are racing, you just stay with the plan. If you've been training for it, and you know it on by the hour, whatever that is, you gotta be on top of it. And you gotta know every hour, by every hour, what that means is that you want to know of like, okay, what have I been drinking? What have I been eating? How many calories? How much carbs have I been drinking? How about electrolyte? Those are the most important thing. All right. So now the next thing is that if you guys want to go deep dive more on the nutrition, we do have another free training on that. So go ahead and put #nutrition down below if you guys want to deep dive more about nutrition, because we're going to go on the next one. Hopefully Scott's coming back, but we're going to continue on this. All right. Well, the next one.
Tip
right,
number 2. Yes.
The next one. And the next one is ice is your friend. Ice is your friend. All right. Whenever I go to the races that I've gone through, especially like really humid, hot, and then just in the desert. Okay. Or just in the desert. So ice is your friend. Welcome back, my friend. We're talking about ice. Hopefully you're going to come back in. So ice is your friend. So cold water. Okay. So especially, so here are some tips. Okay. So, what I would do is that like put my ice, just half water into the freezer overnight, get that in. So at least you pack it, you put in your special needs or your bag. Okay. So at least when you get it with you, it's still cold, and that would be a good one, especially on when you are racing on the bike. Okay. So is that something that you did also, Scott? Let me unmute you. So hopefully you are able to talk. And
okay, we'll try a little later.
All right,
like
we're going to continue on.
Still frozen a little bit.
Okay. So
like the ice.
Oh my goodness. So now the spot is on me. let's continue. All right. So ice is your friend. So, I strongly recommend, like on the bike part. Okay. If someone's offering you some ice water there, grab it just to, you can pour it in your head, anything, because guess what? When you're in a hot weather, you want to keep your core cool. You want to keep your body temperature as low as possible. Why? Because if it's hot, your body is working harder to cool you off. Okay, to cool you off. Well, we need your energy be distributed more on actually digesting your food. Okay, getting that hard intensity. Okay, so as much as possible, we don't want your body to be working so hard, and then having your body to be cooling off, in a hot weather is another work. So definitely grab an ice. Now, when it comes to, all right, Scott's coming back again. So when it comes to run, then that's a lot more important. Okay. And I've used ice a lot. And actually, like, for example, on my 23 Ironman in 34 days, that was only 2020. I have my support crew. And actually not just that, when I was in Red Bull Trans-Siberian Extreme in Russia, where it was so humid and hot, ice was my friend. We may not have, like, for example, we may not have the real ice, but we have portable ice. It's like, I have ice whenever I race, especially when it's hot, not necessarily just to cool off. Guess what? That's actually going to help you, lower any chances of inflammation. All right. So for example, let's just say, something, like if you can grab ice, put in your, inside your jersey, or like, for example, something's getting tight in your glute, put ice there, put ice all over. And during the run portion, yes, ice is your friend. And especially on a 70.3, it's hot. I mean, you got to be able to calculate it already by the time that you're actually running. Okay. Guess what? You calculate, you'll be running around 11 a.m., noon, 1 p.m., 2 p.m. I mean, you already like biked 56 mile. I mean, just put yourself in there. Are you ready for that heat? So ice is your friend. Chew ice. I've done that.
James says he had volunteers dump handfuls of
yes,
ice
grab it
on the run when it's hot.
Yep, totally agree. everything. You know, what I would do is like, I'll grab, you got ice water? Boom. All right, I will be running. Okay, I'm going to go grab again. And then I would choose, sometimes I don't even feel my lips anymore because it's full of ice. I don't care, you know, but it's just, the thing about it is that because when you're chewing ice, you're also, you know, you're getting in those water liquid. Okay, so that's great. And also if you can grab towel with ice, have it there. Okay. And if, so ice is your friend. And other things also that I've done is like, for example, let's just say, and it's actually going to help you out in terms of lasting long, especially if you're hurting already, you know, hopefully not. Okay. So if you're getting tight, you know, if you're getting tight already, just grab ice, put in your shorts. All right. Try it out. I know you're going to get faster. All right. So hopefully I'm hearing some sounds from Scott. And let's see if you can take a video. If not, if that's too bad, but I'm going to
leave the video off. I think it's the Wi-Fi is not working, so I'm going to try to just make the rest of the call here.
Sure.
To talk about ice, just a couple of things here from Chattanooga and other races I've done is you talked about freezing the water bottle for the bike, but I will freeze a water bottle, just like a Dasani or some type of disposable water bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And when I run out of T2 and I go to start my run, I have that bottle in my hand. And if you freeze it the night before and just leave it in your tri bag or in your kit, it'll stay very cold, if not even partially frozen. So when you run out, you have ice cold water in your hand. Yep. The other thing, if you've raced recently and you've raced in hot conditions, you'll notice that as the race goes on, the fluids that the aid stations are handing out become warmer and warmer because the ambient temperature is going up and they start losing ice. And they, especially in a big race, like in Chattanooga or Augusta. So these are some common hot races.
Yep.
They're not able to actually cool the water before they mix it with their Gatorade, and they're just giving you warm water. So ice is your friend. Coach said it 10 times. It is your friend. The other thing that I did is I took a Ziploc bag, and when I came through transition, I would fill it with ice.
Bag. You're smart, Scott. For the ladies there, you got your sports bra. Put it in your sports bra. I've done it. So the guys are jealous because I got my core. You know, like basically, I just want to keep myself cool. All right. Good. Thanks, Scott. All right. So next thing. All right. Train for it. Okay. Train hardest.
Tip number 3.
That's tip number 3. Take advantage of the heat and humidity in training. Stop complaining during training. Oh, it's getting hot. You know what? You sign up for a hot race. Your body has to adapt to it. Okay. And it's not just physically, but also, you know, mentally. When you guys get used to it, that hot becomes normal. Okay.
So you're saying train for the hot.
Yeah. Simulate the condition of the race. Okay. So that you can smile on the race day. Scott, you want to say something about that? You used your golf course 70.3 bike as a training, not necessarily, but you won, right? You got 23.7 on 2 weeks prior. That was 56 mile, wherein you won there. That's pretty much a very good training. But what Scott had done also is that he went to the course and actually biked the course, suck it up, practice his nutrition. Like if you really want to get your goal, you gotta do whatever it takes. But of course, that comes with balance in life. So Scott, what did you do in training? How'd you train? How did you do it? How is it different from last year?
Yeah, this is a great topic here, and I hope everybody is still listening in. But acclimate to your race situation. And even those, I heard somebody is running Oregon. You know, it's not going to be super hot there, but it's still going to be warm. It's still summer, and it may be warm for you. But I like to sleep in at least one day of my weekend. So when I go to do my Sunday long run, many times this is an interval run, and I'm showing up to the track when everybody else is leaving. And I talk to some other people and are like, oh, I would never do that. And you know what? You're not going to get your results if you don't. And I hear people say, well, I do my brick and it's warm when I do my brick, but you're running at a low intensity. And I feel one of the things that really helped me in Chattanooga and some of these other races where it was hot, even Ragnar was really warm, is I'm showing up on Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning to start my run and finishing at 1. Well, guess what time you're running your 70.3? You're running at 11, 12, 1, maybe 2 o'clock. And if you're running in that same temperature, it'll pay off on race day. And not just go run with some intensity, put some tempo in there, or do some, interval-based training that's high intensity, because that's what's going to show up on race day. Again, simulate that race environment.
Yep. You said it. So did you do that last year, Scott?
No, no, I didn't.
Not at all.
Not at all. No.
Okay.
No, that was new this year.
Was it because you wanted your goal so badly, or you just didn't know how, or you didn't think about it?
At first, it was by accident, because I would be, Saturday, I would try to beat the heat a little bit and get out on my long bike rides. So, 4, 5, 6 hours for Ironman full distance training. It's 1, 2 o'clock when we're finishing that. So just trying to get out so that I can get home before 3 or 4 o'clock. So on Sunday, it would take me a little bit of extra time to just wake up and kind of get going and plan for my training that I was doing that day. And it would be 9, 10, 11 o'clock before I even got to the track, and you're doing a 2-hour workout. So much like this morning, I flew in late last night. There was no way I was waking up at 6 o'clock this morning to get out and do my run. So when I went out to do my run, the temperature said it felt like 95 degrees with the humidity, which was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So
you've had a lot of practice on that already.
Embrace the sun.
Embrace it. And, again, the more you embrace it during training, you will suffer less during race day when you want to show up. When I was running Chattanooga, I was passing people in waves who you could tell hadn't gone maybe a 4-mile brick in the hot heat, and never did they show up and do something in the middle of the day. Or maybe they did 1 or 2, but not enough to really acclimate themselves for 13.1. Those need to show up in your training plan.
Yep, agree. Totally. I'm going to tie something in there that we mentioned earlier. So Scott mentioned about, train wherein you're simulating the environment of your race, right? And then at the same time with the intensity, right? But the next thing also is that you got to train with the nutrition still. Some athletes would just train their nutrition and then they don't train intensity. And they're like, I did my training on nutrition, coach. How come it didn't work? Because you have to train everything. Actually the 5 things, your mindset, your training itself, the bike, the run, the nutrition itself, right? And as Scott had mentioned, there is the recovery part. He had to make sure that he's recovering, because if he did not recover the day before, or he's not ready for that hard training, I doubt that he would be able to really get to the point that where he can really push himself and get a high quality workout. So that's basically what he's training during not necessarily just on weekends, basically those key workouts. He's training his race strategy, it's a combination of all those things. It's not necessarily, okay, I'm just going to do a half marathon or a 10 mile. I finished the distance. Oh, I'm ready. No. All right. So I hope you guys are getting on that one. Okay. If not, rewind. Okay. Take notes. It has to be a combination. Good. Scott, there's another thing also that you did mention. What about making your running or your cycling easier rather than working hard? You mentioned about technique portion. Have you been also doing that to help you out?
Yeah, so both run and in the bike, focusing in on pacing and technique. And, there's parts where you get into your cycle, and again, you start out, you come out of that swim and you're feeling good. You haven't really, hopefully worn out your quads too much when you're on the swim with the lot of kick.
Yeah.
And you come into that bike and, it does take a little bit of adjustment. Your hip flexors need to unwind and get settled in for that. But staying within that technique and good form, getting into your aero position and doing those long rides in your race position. It's easy to get up on your bars and, feel more relaxed, but train how you want to perform, and focusing on that as well as the pacing. There was a book I read about a swimmer who swam around the around England, and
Great Britain.
yeah, you know the book. Yeah, so it's called The Art of Resilience.
Yeah.
And he the whole time just talks about impeccable pacing. And the last couple of rides and races I've done, I've just thought in my head, just focus on the form, just impeccable pacing, just pace yourself. You can lose this race, you can lose this opportunity to do well in the first few miles, but pace yourself for the longer distance. When I came out of the swim in Chattanooga, I knew right there that I had a PR type of day in front of me if I was able to keep it together. So I pushed myself up to a point where I felt comfortable in the first half of the ride. And then as I got to the back half, the second half there, that's when I started to pick it up into the point where, okay, I know I can, I feel pretty good. And I know at this pace, I can add a little bit more. And I use that exact same strategy in the run. The first loop, I stayed with that impeccable pacing, slow myself down, intentionally slow myself down. I even put in a walk break on a major hill because it really doesn't provide much value to run it. But still, it gave me something to look forward to, knowing that in my mind, I'd already determined I'm going to walk that hill. No matter how I feel, I'm going to walk it, recover a little bit, and then go hard again. But keep that pacing. Don't overdo it. And then just, again, get in that second half of the run and everything still kept together and just keep going.
I've got that. So that is the fourth tip. Pace yourself and maintain impeccable technique.
Impeccable pacing.
Impeccable pacing technique. All right.
Yes.
That's right.
So
who has had this be your downfall when you kind of burned yourself out in the first few miles?
what has happened?
Let's share some experiences in the comments if this has been a tough spot for you.
Okay. Oh, here is has like you are a triathlete. You're racing a triathlon. That means that you want to be good in all three sports as much as possible, depending on your training. That's what you want. That's what you aim for. So, like for example, if you are a strong cyclist, yes, let's make you be a stronger triathlete, wherein you're looking into like extending that strength, wherein you're actually still sustaining your speed on the run portion and not necessarily walking it. Okay. So if you are just joining in right now, we're talking about 5 top effective tips that you're going to be able to use on a hot 70.3 distance or longer.
And we are on tip number 4 already.
Yeah. Tip number 4 was that pace yourself and have an impeccable technique, maintaining your form, especially because when it gets hard, that's when you actually, keep it together, because it gets harder and harder. And the proper technique of cycling, running will help you out. Well, of course, swimming as well. Okay. So in terms of like sustaining it to get your speed still good. All right. Last but not the least.
Well, hold on.
Sure.
Let me mention one thing. This is extremely visible in the swim part, actually. When you start way too fast, you get super anxious. You get like your breathing's out of control. Like this is very visible in the swim. And you see it right away. But this happens in all the parts.
Okay.
All right. Go
All
ahead.
right. Next, top five. Check your gears. You want to say something about that, Scott?
Absolutely. So make sure you've got a kit that will fit you, that fits properly, and is, made out of a material that is fast drying. So I was on the bike ride and I passed a guy wearing a cotton t-shirt, and I actually called him out. So what are you doing? And I just couldn't believe it still that we see someone cycling in a cotton t-shirt. But I love my wool socks. I love my tri kit. One of the things about my tri kit, it unzips all down to the navel, which is kind of, I guess you can actually go a little further now in the triathlon, in the Ironman. But having a suit that will absorb the moisture, and coming back to what we talked about with the run about putting ice on your body. Well, all that water is going somewhere. And if you've got a kit that's fast drying, you can ice yourself down, you can splash yourself with water and not worry about, getting chafing or something, else going wrong with your day. So That's one of my big things there. I like to wear a visor on race day. I never wear a hat or visor unless it's raining or on race day and it's hot. Shades my face, makes me feel cooler. And in those kinds of moments, it's about how you feel.
You guys saw here his gears. He's modeling it.
Oh my gosh, you put that up there. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how he finished. That's how he enjoys a 5:15 finish. It's really like when you like embrace the suck during training, and here you go, you got nice poses, smiling all the way through. How do you describe your finish? Like all throughout the race, how do you describe it? That Chattanooga.
Just the entire start to finish, and Vanetta hit on something there too, is starting with the swim on pacing. We didn't really talk about that because we're talking mostly about the heat, but start to finish, that was my goal, was get halfway through each one of these disciplines and then go. When we talked about, you mentioned in the beginning about my PR cycle time in Panama City was almost 24 miles an hour. In Chattanooga, I was just over 21. So I reset my expectations mentally. The course there is actually really fast. Even though it's hilly, it's a good hill. You can use one downhill to help you on the next uphill. Yeah. So it's actually a really nice bike course.
It's like a roll.
But yeah, it is. It really is. You can use a lot of that speed and momentum from one hill to the next, or use for recovery on the downhills after a few of the larger ones. Yeah. But was able to just back that down again, reset expectations, because I felt like there was this razor's edge of, if I push this for 10 seconds more a mile, I might blow up. And the closer I got to the finish line of the bike, I started to increase my tempo and increase my pace a little bit, all the way up to the end. So I had a strong finish. I had a strong finish on the swim, had a strong finish on the bike. And then you see me jumping across the finish line because I had a strong finish on the run. Right. I felt like I could have ran 10 more miles there. It felt really good all the way through. I went that entire race competing how I feel, and I'm kind of changed my strategy over the last several months about training and racing how I feel. And that's maybe shown up in my results much better than trying to just hit this target pace. And the interesting part there is my times have actually decreased using that as a strategy.
We mentioned a lot about that in terms of thought process. So I hope you guys are getting those, like how the thinking process at the race, meaning being flexible in terms of your expectation, depending on the race circumstances or how you feel during the race or how the weather is. So you got to have like, okay, what's the plan B? Or like really be realistic to it. On his race report in our community, he said, I need to say that this was the most prepared race I've ever experienced. I'm trying to understand this, but you may want to explain this. This felt like running a 5K after training for a half marathon. What does that mean? Tell us more about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt easy, the entire way, start to finish. And if you've competed in a longer distance event and you go run something shorter, it feels much easier. You have the confidence to be able to go run that event. So if you train for a half marathon, a 5K or 10K might feel easier to you. Sure. We talked about, we went and competed in the Gulf Coast. So I had that 56-mile bike ride. I went and did the test ride on the Chattanooga course. We actually ran a little bit of the course. We trained in the heat. I felt good about my swim. So we put in the work, and I put a plan together. You showed my plan earlier. It was down to the second on some of these. And I felt like a 5:19 was actually very aggressive.
So yeah, I'm about to show that. So, with all our athletes, again, it's not just about training. We want to plan ahead, plan how we want to finish. Do the best we can of what we can control right now. And part of it is actually, the schedule part, that I'm showing again right now. Okay. Why do we want to do this schedule? It actually frees up your brain space, and you don't have to think. You just want to, enjoy the race. And then when you're actually doing this one during training, now you're automating yourself doing these things. It becomes automated. It becomes a habit now it's much easier for your brain. Now you can focus more on actually executing the race itself and enjoying and smiling like what Scott was doing. One of the things that he also put here, because I only asked for schedules, and when he actually put this one up in our community, okay, this is where the part, okay, giving feedback, like what works, right? So now right here, he actually even put here 5:19. That was, he beat his expected goal time, 5:19. Tell us more about that, Scott. Were you trying to beat your expected goal time of 5:19 because you got 5:15?
I didn't even think it was, well, I wasn't really checking my watch while I was on the bike. I mean, I kind of had an idea because, you know, it pops up every, you know, your 5 miles and tells you your pace. But I wasn't putting it together until I was about halfway through the race on the run. And I realized that, hey, if I keep this up, I can hit maybe a 5:20. And I kept getting closer and I was like, no, wait a minute, maybe I'm in that 5:17, 5:18 range. And it was the last 2 miles. I'm like, I only got maybe 15 minutes to go. Let's just increase the cadence here and keep it. Because you come up off a big hill there at about mile 10 and a half. And then it's just, you know, you got a little bit of downhill. And it's like, let's just keep the cadence and push to the end. And then you got a big downhill finish. And I just jogged, you know, and see jogging, but just cruise it in and hit the finish line. I'm like, how did this even happen? Because when I put the 5:19, the weather forecast was supposed to be like 80 and cloudy and even some rain.
Wow.
So
okay. It's different.
So when we saw the race day forecast, it showed sunny up till about noon and then rain. So we knew it was going to be warm. And I thought maybe 5:25 based on the current forecast. And again, I talked earlier about resetting expectations. That's exactly what I did at that moment. Was I thought 5:19, okay, put that aside. 5:25 is my new goal time today. So to hit 5:15 on that day, on that time with that hot weather was, I wouldn't say surprising because I did put in the work, but it was a major accomplishment in my book. So
Nice.
I mean, we've been talking about this 5:15, 5:38, 5. It sounds really amazing. That's not what we want to talk about, but this one here, 5:15. I mean, I'm sure everyone's curious. I mean, when did you start racing 70.3, Scott?
I did my first in Augusta in 2018. And then I did a second one in 2019 in Virginia. And both of those events were hot. Augusta was 100. It was 100 on the run. And Virginia wasn't super hot, but I remember it being just so humid. You could actually see the moisture in the air. And that was May. But then we had a 2-year break with COVID and we really didn't do any kind of endurance racing for 2 years. So last year at Chattanooga was kind of my comeback race. And I trained more than I ever had. I actually put in more miles, more pool time. Wow. And that race was worse for me. And that, again, that's where I mentioned earlier was I've been following the same group that you're in right now and said, something's got to change. If I'm putting in this much work for less results, I've got to do something different.
Gotcha. Well, so let's summarize this one. What are the top 5 effective? If you know those top 5, I want you guys to be putting it down.
Yes, let's see if everybody remembers.
Okay,
who
so
wrote it down?
Let's top one. What you guys get
in the comments?
So Scott and I can check, and Vinetta as well. You know, like,
yes.
Are you guys learning from this? Put #value if you guys want to know more about the nutrition earlier. You know, #nutrition. Okay.
Let's see the 5.
So we have a free
tips.
training on that. I did just mention. Okay, so what are the top 5 effective tips?
While people have time to put that in, I have a question for Scott.
Yeah.
I have a question with Scott.
Scott,
what made the biggest difference for you for this particular race working together with the feistyfox team?
That's a tough one because there's so many important tools that we have here. And for me, I think it's training plan and the recovery that goes along with it. I set some pretty aggressive goals for myself and I compete in a lot of races. Coach knows how much I love to sign up for races. And being able to put together a training plan where you can continue to improve but still go out every 2 weeks and race with your friends and have fun is, I think, the most important thing to me. And of course, it's even more fun when you can get a podium spot or take home a top award. So those things have been something that I haven't realized in the past. And this year, just over the last year, we've had a number of successful events where those training plans of putting it in and putting it all together has been, I'd probably say, this is the most important thing. Just between, I'd say, the combination of all those things. Like, we talk about nutrition, we talk about hydration, but how to actually make it all work as like one ecosystem that you live in is, right. I'd say,
the puzzle is finally coming together, not just these separate elements that you kind of just grab, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people talk about like, I've got a plan. Oh, I do nutrition, but they don't really think about what they need until their race kind of falls apart. And that's when they want to make a plan. And that's obviously way too late in the game. You can make some audibles, but you're in for a longer day and in for a less enjoyable time. Sure. I mean, yes, we want to finish and we get to the finish line and we feel good about the accomplishment, but you can make a whole different race out of it.
Scott, you mentioned about training plan, but then, at the same time, I'm sure everyone's curious, but I got a training plan. Like, why yours is, what do you think is different? Because knowing you were using a training plan somewhere else, before Feisty Fox Coaching, how is it different?
One of the first things was about technique. So I would have a training plan that you could get from Training Peaks, and it outlines a workout, but like, I was not that great of a swimmer. So we focused on specific technique drills to help me not only just get better in the water, but more comfortable in different disciplines of that. So there's so much for me to learn on technique. I pulled this training plan. I'm like, I don't know what any of these things mean. And one of the things with your training plan that was much different was, here's what I want you to do. And then here's a video that I've created in the pool that shows you exactly how to do it. So I would like have a reference of what I should be doing and see the exact movements on how to execute those drills. And the same thing with the run, right? So I'd go out to the track and it would give me a workout and it would say, go run 600-800s at this pace. But the way that Feisty Fox Coaching has set it up is, hey, we want you to do these drills. We want you to do these movements. We want you to do these stretches. We want you to do these things before you go, even some leg strengthening routines before and after, to help you get your muscles warmed up and, to execute the best workout you can. Those were the things that I'd see making the biggest difference in my speed work, and my mile times and half mile times just keep coming down. So those were, again, the major differences between just getting a training plan and getting coaching. So.
Gotcha. That's a very helpful distinction, I think, Scott. Thanks a lot. I wanted to show everyone also, he had mentioned about the training and then the combination of it, which is, I totally agree. And this is something that I was also like clueless when I started. I was getting training plan, I had coaching, but then I had to like hire another registered dietitian. I have to hire strength trainer. I have to hire different people just to put it all together. So what we have done in Feisty Fox Coaching, we have combined training, nutrition, body maintenance, making sure that you are actually addressing your weak links even before you feel hurt. Like, we got to address that, get them stronger, mental fitness and race strategy. Is this what you were saying earlier, Scott? The ecosystem?
Yeah,
ecosystem.
Absolutely. It's the combination of everything. Like, so you guys are bringing experts to our weekly calls that we have within the members. So whether it's the dietitians or some of the physical therapists that I could ask specific questions without having to go get a resource of my own. So I've learned so much about how to dial in my nutrition or stay injury free. When I first joined, I was having a lot of injuries. It would be a cycle of train for 3 months. I'd be healthy. I'd be able to get mostly through a race, or maybe I'd be on the cusp of an injury because of the overtraining that I was doing. And when I was introduced to a lot of the body maintenance techniques, and again, the combination of those body maintenance techniques really showed how I could become more flexible and stay injury free over a long period of time.
Good. Let me show you what he was talking about. Also, the demos that he was talking about with swimming. He mentioned that he's not a good swimmer, but what he got actually is, so he got, hopefully I can go back there. It's 38 minutes on his swimming. That's your PR for 1.2, right?
Well, I was actually a little faster in Augusta, but that doesn't even count.
Okay,
that water is so fast. That water is so fast.
Gotcha.
But
So
year
now-
over year, if you have it there, I think it was around 8 minutes.
Nice.
In the same water.
So with the demo swim videos, where is it? Swim faster technique. So these are the demo videos. Unfortunately, they're not available in YouTube because they're just so good. It's only like 3 to 5 minutes. Very, 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 very specific. And I continue to actually create more drills that make sense to athletes, like modified this kind. This one works so you can feel how to engage your lats, how to kick and know that you're kicking from your glutes. Basically practical things that you got to do for your technique. All right. I think you guys got a lot of that one. So let's go back to the top 5 effective tips.
Yes,
okay.
We had some people who wrote them down really well. Veronica was calling them out. She said, train your nutrition. She said, ice is your friend.
That's mine too. Yeah. train for it. Train for it. Train the hardest. Embrace the suck. When it's hot, get out there. You sign up for it. You gotta be able to adapt, and your body has to adapt to it. Practicing your technique and form during the training. So by the time that you're actually at the race, you are like strong and not necessarily just working hard, but actually racing smart through proper technique. Okay. 4, have impeccable pace. Okay. 5, gear check. Hopefully you guys got all that. Those are the top 5 because Scott and I have a lot of different experience. Like I asked him, like, what's your top? What's my top? We actually agree on this top. So you're getting the top 5 effective tips. These are things. So now go back to how you're training, evaluate how you're training. How can you implement what you've learned right now? And if you have any other friends who are actually racing for 70.3, invite them to our group, because this is what we do in Ironman and beyond. We help you guys basically give you value. So at least you too, can keep getting faster, stronger, and enjoying the sport that you've chosen. And it doesn't matter whether it's 70.3. I mean, it is hot there. All right. And then so for anyone else who are athletes, like, for example, Scott, let's say, like he was trying to figure it out on his own, but wasn't getting there. But now actually figure out like, hey, my life as a triathlete could be much easier with the help, with feistyfoxcoaching. Or if you just want to have some tips of like, what, coach, I don't know what to do, like just put hashtag game plan down below, and Vineta and I can have a 15-minute chat with you, talk about it. Like, for example, if you're not sure about your coach, I'm not sure about my goal. I'm not sure if I'm going to sign up for this one. And you think I'm ready for it? So those questions, just put hashtag game plan below and we can help you out. Also see any blind spots. We did mention earlier, if I go back to that, let me see here. We're almost done. So if I go back to what we address, you got to make sure that you address those 5 things that I just mentioned. So going back here, okay, which is training, nutrition, body maintenance, mental fitness, and race strategy. You want to be able to combine this one all together and know how to execute it, not just in race, but actually in training. Okay. So now if you want to have like a call and for Vineta and I to actually see how your training is going, we can walk you through about how to go about this one on that 15-minute call. Just put hashtag game plan below. All right. Anything else? So Scott, before we'll let you go, because I know you're in Mexico, you're going to enjoy another few days there in Mexico. We want to ask you, like, what's the last, like the top things that you may want to share with the athletes who are actually racing this summer? Is there anything else that we have not talked about, Scott, that you want to bring up?
Have fun.
Yes.
Enjoy yourself. That's what we're out here for. Triathlon is a close-knit community, and if you're struggling with something, whether it's in this group or somewhere else, I can promise you, if you ask another triathlete, they'll lend you some advice. They may lend you their tire pump, and whatever it is, they will help you out. It's everybody's out here for the same cause. I feel like there's a great bond between anybody in the triathlon world. So, Coach mentioned if you're struggling, talk amongst them and in this group. And like I said, go have fun. That's what we're here for.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that, Scott. Definitely have fun. Have fun like you do. And practice your poses too. No, just kidding. On the finish. Yeah. And have fun. All right, everyone. That's all we have today. I hope you guys learned a lot. Share it. Tag your friends who are in this group. Invite your friends to come in this group so they get access to it. But that's all we have. And we see you next week. Bye, Scott. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Later.
Bye, guys.